The Demeter, on charter from Romania to London. Shipping private crates. Contents unknown. Out at sea with no land in sight.
Last Voyage of the Demeter. Yet again, in 2023, we get another Dracula movie. And, well, this time it's very different. So, The Last Voyage of the Demeter is based on, it was the, I think, prologue to the Bram Stoker's Dracula novel, where it's the captain's log of the Demeter, and basically saying that everybody is, this is what happened. We started out, normally, and now it just stuff has happened, and yeah, we're basically all screwed. So this is based on that. This starts out in, I believe it's Carpathia, I believe, and they're just about to get all the luggage and all the cargo onto the ship, and they're going to go from Carpathia to London. And they before they even leave Carpathia, somebody notices I believe it's a dragon symbol on a certain crate, and it's like, yeah, that's a bad omen. So, see ya. I'm not doing this. So they end up, ignoring his warning, and they just go. Little do they know that a certain passenger is in that crate, and it is a very hungry and bloodthirsty Dracula. And so, yeah, so they got that to deal with. But not only do they have to deal with, Dracula, but they also have to take on the greatest, one of the biggest fears of mine, not getting seasick. And yeah, I can't do that. I'll stay on a boat for maybe an hour, and then I'll start getting nauseous, and then I will vomit. So I heard about this movie a couple months ago, and I was going like, really, another Dracula movie? Okay, what is this one going to offer? Because earlier in the year, when the same studio, Universal, released Renfield, a very different interpretation of Dracula. This one, it's very different. And, I thought that this was very interesting. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. And I will get into that in a minute. So, I heard a lot of people saying that this feels like one of those Hammer films from back in the day, where it's just like, yeah, they know what they are. And I've also heard a lot of people say that they don't like this interpretation of Dracula, and that it should be something else. It should be just Bela Lugosi's version back in the 30s. And here's my take on it. Dracula is a character that is forever changing, if you really think about it. I mean, went from, the novel, and then he started out in movies in, when Universal started the Universal Monsters from the 30s. It started out with Dracula. And Dracula was very much a very stylized manipulator with fangs and a thirst for blood. But he was able to he was a monster and a creature of the night, if you would say, but he was able to pass off being a person. So he was able to work in the huddles and work, not necessarily in the shadows, but yes, in the shadows. And so that's that version. You also have something like, actual Bram Stoker's Dracula movie, where you had Gary Oldman's version, where honestly the only thing, I mean, I can talk about Keanu's acting. I love Keanu Reeves, but oh boy, his acting. But honestly, I think the only other thing that I didn't like about that movie was looking at Gary Oldman's hair. It's like, dude, really? You have like dunes on your head. Like, what's going on there? But that version was very darker. And I then also cut to a movie back in the 70s called Love at First Bite. That is a romantic comedy parody film. And I definitely recommend that you go check that one out, because that one's actually really funny. And also with Renfield that came out earlier this year. That is a comedy, that's an action comedy / splatter film. Because that film was pretty graphic and pretty gory. This one, and Nicolas Cage's version of Dracula, I'll just say this right off the bat, Nicolas Cage was awesome as Dracula, but he was being that monster, but also kind of charismatic. This version in this movie, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, is very, he is just a creature. And something else is that if you were in a pine box for who knows how long, and you then finally break out of it, and your first instinct is, I am hungry, and hunger, if you don't eat, it can then mess with your emotions. And with most people, if you don't eat, you end up getting really angry. And so Dracula is very hungry for blood, and also he is angry. So that's this version. So Dracula is a character that is forever changing. It can go, they can take Dracula as a character and go in many different directions. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on the writing. But in this case, I really liked how they made him more of a like dark, angry creature. And this is probably just me, but I honestly, every time when they showed this version of Dracula, it reminded me of Salem's Lot. If you know what I'm talking about, you'll see it. But some of the things I did like about this, the production value, and how especially the building of the Demeter ship. I can tell sometimes it was a set, and sometimes it looked like it was an actual boat. And I think they did a really good job at capturing that. The acting from mostly everybody was good. And the movie is also pretty bloody. And there's a couple of parts where they throw in like little, like, if you see it, you'll go like, I see what you did there. But unfortunately, me telling you, it would pretty much be a spoiler. So I'm going to just pass on that. Now, some of the things I didn't like. I understand that the horror movies, or movies in general, did not exist back then, like when this takes place. But they do the whole, I'll investigate by myself, and then eventually, like around like maybe a good portion into the movie, when they start realizing that something is on the ship, they start going, okay, you know what? Everyone that's doing their job, you do it with somebody else. And even then, like when you have a team of two, one of them goes off a little bit farther than they should, and they're out of eyesight from their partner, then immediately it's like, okay, they're right for the picking. So even in those situations, it's like, really? Like, okay. And another part that I I had a little slight issue with, but, you know, I can kind of look past it, is there's a part where Dracula gets off the Demeter and then goes back to it. It's like, shouldn't he have been wiser and just left? And they don't know where he would end up. But then again, that would change from the prologue scene, where it's how he got from Carpathia to London, and that sets up the actual Dracula novel. So that would be a complete change. So I can look past that, but it's still one of those like okay. I didn't really have an emotional attachment to this. Another thing too is that this movie is it is brutal. It doesn't hold anything back. It's like, oh, you like this? Well, screw that thing, because we're just gonna kill it. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, all right. I kind of guessed that was gonna happen, but still. But this is, I thought this is a very interesting, it's flawed, but a very interesting and mostly good telling of the prologue of Bram Stoker's Dracula novel, and also a different version of what we're used to seeing in Dracula, where in the past he's been very charismatic or very like trying to blend in with the crowd. In this, he's just a starving beast and doesn't have any charismatic traits to him yet. And, you know, I liked that. It felt like a us versus the monster type film, but it was all about Dracula. So despite my criticisms, I would give this an average. If they fixed some of the criticisms that I've had, this would get probably a great, but I did like a big majority of this movie, so I would give it an average. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. It's kind of considered to be one of those like love it or hate it movies, but the problem is with those kinds of movies, I'm always smack in the middle, and this is one of them. But, you know, if you like just monster hunting movies, then this will do it. If you like bloody survival monster films, this is it. So I think you would have a good time. I think if you pay like maybe a matinee price to go check this out, I don't think it would kill you. Or it's a fun movie to watch at home if you want to just stay and rent it. But overall, I enjoyed it, despite all the flaws that I've had.
This here is Clemens. He's a doctor.
You dress like a learned man.
University of Cambridge. I know my way around the boat.